Mike and Nick coming at you from Big Cat Rescue. So tonight we're going to be going over the topic. We're going to go through each round of a mock draft, and we're going to highlight the guy that we are looking at that we like to pick up in that round, and the guy that we're trying to avoid in that round. So I set it up on Fantasy Pros. I did a mock draft. Did a 16-round mock draft. We might split it up into 2 segments, depending on how quick we're running through them. And I have it set for half-point PPR. It has 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex, and then the rest are all just bench spots. So again, we added a couple extra bench spots just because leagues might be adding more spots this year with the COVID going on, so that people are able to kind of plug and play if they have guys that are missing time. So good to know some of those later round guys. All right. So we'll start off. We'll just jump right into it.
Who you got in the first round?
So in the first round
should be fairly easy, right?
Fairly easy. So let's see if you can guess the guy that I'm targeting in the first round.
CMC, maybe?
Yep. Christian McCaffrey. All right.
But
no-brainer.
It kind of matters depending on your draft type as well. I mean, not everybody's going to have the 1-1.
That's true. But again, of all the guys, basically I looked at it kind of independent of what position you're picking from. Just if you looked at all 12 guys in that first round, Christian McCaffrey's kind of the obvious guy you want on your team. And the way that this one shook out, there was 1 quarterback taken in the first round, and that was Patrick Mahomes. I like Patrick Mahomes. I'm a big fan. He is my dynasty quarterback.
Wait, did you say Gronkowski?
No.
Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
So you're never going to give Gronk up.
Oh,
wish you knew how to quit him, but
I don't want to quit him.
we'll see how it happens. So again, like Patrick Mahomes, great player, great talent, but we kind of hit on it in our Why You Suck at Fantasy Football episode when we were talking about draft strategies of taking a quarterback later in the draft. I think that to take Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, one of those top quarterbacks, in the first round is going to be too much. You're going to be regretting it when you can get another quarterback who can give you similar production, especially depending on matchup. Whereas if you miss out on some of these high-tier running backs that are going in the first round, the one that I did, the mock, it was all running backs except for 2 wide receivers, which were Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams, and then Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think, there's the sentiment of, you can't win the season at the draft, but you can lose it. I don't think you can necessarily lose a season at the draft.
You can do it when you take Gronk in the 4th.
No, I think that's the best play to make. No, I think if you commit to quarterback too early and don't grab those surefire or as close to surefire as you can consider running backs and wide receivers, you're not doing yourself any justice. I mean, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot from the get-go by just getting a quarterback.
Yeah, and really where I've had value in the last couple of years that I've played fantasy football is taking a late-round quarterback, and if you hit on them, it can really make or break your team. So like Lamar going in the second round in this draft, last year you could get him, in one of those later rounds, and it would really make the difference.
Most leagues, too, you start 12 quarterbacks, right? And there's 30 to choose from.
Yeah.
Whereas other positions, we're starting 2 to 3 to 4 wide receivers or running backs, depending on how many flex spots you have and whatnot. And there's only really 32 running back jobs that you would consider as jobs, and then maybe 2 wide receivers per team. So really the pool that you're choosing from is much smaller, from the wide receiver and running back side.
Yeah. So that was the first round. We'll jump into the second round. The player that I picked that I would be wanting on my team that I liked out of this second round was Kenyon Drake. I think that Kenyon Drake's ceiling is really high this year. He looked good at the end of last year. I think he's going to get a ton of opportunity. Really, with Kenyon, I think that just they're going to throw him the ball. He's on a 1-year contract, so I think they're going to use him. There's a little bit of worry that he's never kind of been the workhorse, that he might have some injury risk. He's had some injuries in the past, but really I think that he's going to get a lot of volume. I think he's on an offense that's going to be powerful with a bad defense, so I think they're going to need to score. They're up-tempo. I think he's just going to have a lot of opportunity, and he's shown flashes of being, a talented running back when he gets the opportunity.
I think really the downside is the little bit of the unknown. I mean, it's still a pretty new position or team for him. I mean, he played 5 games for him at the end of last season.
Yeah, and then let's see, was it Chase Edmonds? Right?
Yeah, Chase Edmonds ran the ball a little bit.
I'll talk. You can talk to that also, but again, I think that he had some good games where he looked good. People were a little bit high on him. He got a little bit injured, and Kenyon came in. And once Kenyon Drake came in, Chase Edmonds, did start to vanish a little bit, and they were giving him a lot less carries. So I think that's
right. Yeah, Kenyon. Obviously, you want the opportunity. You're hoping that offense has found something, and it's going to be a little bit more high powered than years past.
Yeah, and they were moving in the right direction.
They were.
Kyler Murray. He's a new quarterback. People are high on him this year. They got Hopkins, where they just stole from Houston, bamboozled them.
Well, the good news is you've seen Kenyon Drake in this role with this team, and he's produced. You got a taste. Again, I don't mind him here in the second, depending on where you're looking at in the second.
All right.
Who are you avoiding?
So the player to avoid in this round, a guy that some people still like. He's a talented guy. He's from my alma mater, NIU, Northern Illinois University. But Kenny Galladay is a guy that I'm a little bit tentative.
Kenny G?
Yeah, I like him as a talent, but I think that the Lions, I'm not exactly sure how they're going to shake out this year. Yeah. They have a bad offense. Again, they've had quarterback issues. Last year, replacement came in. Stafford was out. He's had injuries. He's got a couple injuries that are concerning, too. Like fractures in your back are a thing that's not, Yeah,
you're not looking for that.
Yeah, that's not a sprained wrist.
But also, the last couple of years he's produced.
Yeah, they threw it a ton. I don't think they're going to throw it as much as they did last year because they got a new DeAndre Swift coming in. They're going to run the ball. I think they want to run. They've got Kerryon Johnson, who's been good when he's healthy. He's had health issues. But now if they got two guys, even if one goes down, they can still not have to get away from the run.
I do like the lack of offensive weapons in Detroit, and that could be a positive for Kenny.
Yeah, but Marvin Jones is coming back, and some people are high on him as kind of a sleeper. Still,
he's
people
like 50.
Him and Kenny G's numbers when Marvin Jones is healthy are a lot closer than you would expect if you take a look at that. Another kind of thing with Kenny G is just the division that he's in. They're going to be playing the Packers, who I don't think are going to score a ton of points with their 0 receivers and their brand new quarterback and their brand new running back they didn't need. And again, I think that
Heath, if you're
they're also going to be against the Bears, which I don't see as being world beaters, scoring 1,000 points, and they're going to go against the Vikings that want to pound the rock. So
you got two good defenses and another pretty decent one that you're going to compete
How many
against.
high-scoring shootouts are they going to be in their division? Again, with the Packers just being awful.
You done messed up, Aaron!
But that's the point. What if, they're getting trounced by another team and they just got to throw the ball, which could potentially happen.
That's the picture I'm painting, is that those teams that they're going to play aren't going to be trouncing them where they need to air it out.
I understand that. But, again, the Vikings can get hot. The Packers can get hot, too.
No, nobody to throw it to.
Again, for the second round, first round, sure. Second round, I don't hate it.
They put it all on Funchess, and he opted out.
What's Gallup or
So I actually have Kenny G went as the
what's his
11th
ADP?
pick in the second round.
Again, 211. Who else is going right after him?
Right after him was in this draft Lamar Jackson. Depending on how things are going, but right before him was Chris Godwin. Then before that, Travis Kelce. Before that, Julio Jones. So those are just.
I think you definitely see a tier shift there. It goes Julio and then Kenny G after that. I like Julio, not as hyped on.
So the other guy in this tier or in this round that I considered as putting as a guy to maybe avoid was Aaron Jones, just because I think there's going to be less touchdowns for him this year. They did bring in a new running back, A.J. Dillon, who, again, he's a big guy he's not a speedster. He might get the goal line touches though.
I like turtles.
So again, you don't know. I think there's going to be less touchdowns for him, and we'll see what the Packers look like.
Yeah. Again, I thought they were going to be terrible last year, and they were
hopefully the
opposite.
Hopefully they're as bad this year as we hoped they would be last year.
Yeah, one can hope.
All right, so we're going on to the third round. In the third round, a guy that I would target is at the 3-8, Robert Woods. I think that Robert Woods, with Brandon Cooks moving on to a new team, I think he's going to get a lot of volume. He's a consistent guy, especially if you get kind of one of those higher upside guys in the first or second round that you feel like are going to put out big games. If you can then back those up with a guy who's going to have, so let's say you go running back, and you're looking for a wide receiver right there. If you have two stud running backs, then Robert Woods is sitting there. He can give you points every game. They're going to help to kind of bolster those points from the running backs.
So honestly, if you're, let's say you're in the first round, right?
Okay.
And you're later in the draft, you take Mahomes. you want to go quarterback, early second, late first. I think this is a good wide receiver to pair for your team because I think he's going to get the opportunity or the opportunity as far as touches go and targets. Kupp is great, but he gets hurt a lot. He's kind of a system guy. I think Robert Woods can just run away with it this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for him.
I wouldn't doubt him being a top 15 guy.
Again, I think that he might not always be the guy that shows up as having the big games, but at the end of the year, he's going to be high because he had just those consistent games where he produced.
I almost see him as like a better Landry.
Yeah, again, I think that's a fair comp. A guy that Landry might get more catches, but he's
but it's pretty close.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look
at reliable, he plays, he gets out there, he puts up good effort. He's a talented guy on a team where, again, both the teams are comparable, kind of the Browns and the Rams of people had high expectations. They kind of underachieved, but they still have talent. The quarterbacks are kind of like they could be good. They might not, So again, I think that's a good comp. But again, I think the situation for Robert Woods, he's going to be, he could easily have the most targets on that team for receivers.
So who are you avoiding then?
So a guy to avoid, I had Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people like Mark Andrews. He had a great year, so I just wrote down a couple little notes. He finished as the fourth best tight end on the year with 175.2 points and half-point PPR. And Kittle finished actually at number 2 with 180 points. So the difference between the two guys is Mark Andrews had 10 touchdowns and George Kittle had 5 touchdowns, which makes a huge difference when you're tallying the total numbers at the end of the year.
Right.
I don't think Mark Andrews is going to have 10 touchdowns. They brought in some receivers. I think they're going to throw it to other guys more this year.
There's got to be a regression, right?
Yeah.
You would think?
And again, the one argument for him is that they did get rid of Hayden Hurst, who was a high-round draft pick, never really materialized, but he's going to Atlanta and I think could have a good year this year, but he just couldn't overtake Andrews. So, again, I think just in the third round going for a tight end, if I'm reaching for a tight end in the first, 2-3 rounds, it's going to be Travis Kelce and George Kittle, and then I'm waiting, a number of rounds before I take a shot on a little bit kind of lower.
I agree, just with the late quarterback. I mean, if I'm in the third round, fourth round, and I see Kittle and Kelce are gone, I'm not even thinking tight end. I'm not even thinking tight end until, maybe the 8th round, 9th round.
Yeah, and again, it's because of that tier shift where those kind of Kittle and Kelce are kind of in a tier of their own right now.
Kelce, at least, Kelce's going to be good, right?
And Kelce is another guy who, again, like Gronk, if I had to pick my second favorite tight end to watch, he's a fun guy to watch. He has fun while he plays. Yeah, he's into it. He's trying hard.
The offense is fun to watch.
Yeah, he makes athletic plays. It's a fun offense.
Yeah.
So, again, Mark Andrews is my guy to avoid in the third. So, going into the fourth, the guy that I chose in this round that I would avoid is Courtland Sutton. So, Courtland Sutton we've talked about in previous episodes. Athletic guy, makes some highlight catches. One of my knocks on him is that they did just draft Jerry Jeudy, who I think is going to actually command a lot of volume for a rookie.
You just said the word.
If I judge Jeudy drop.
No, now we're going to get the Brittany and Emily's with the Judys.
Their favorite.
Yeah.
So anyways, Courtland Sutton, though, again, Denver, another thing at knock on Courtland Sutton is that I don't expect them to be an air it out, run and gun type of offense. I think they're going to be more pounding it with Melvin Gordon coming in. They do have Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman, who, again, and they're not guys that I'm drafting or really targeting at all. I've never been a big Phillip Lindsay fan, but I think that if Melvin Gordon does go down, there's still guys that are competent guys that can run the ball.
You picked most of these. I actually like Sutton a lot. Maybe 4.6 maybe a little steep, but here's the thing: if it's the same thing the Broncos are selling, they're selling offensive weapons. They're selling potentially a really good quarterback. They're selling a really good defense. That's what they're selling their fans on. If you're buying into that notion, if they're buying into that notion, Sutton's got to be good.
Well, and part of it, too, is they're a team where I made the argument against the NFC North division for not having probably a lot of games that are going to go to shootouts. This division has Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I think that's part of the reasoning to why they did try to get all those weapons is because they felt like
the
even with a good
almost
defense,
always beat.
even with a good defense, so it's they realize that
more.
they may be in a division where they're going to have to score some points. So we
Right.
better get this thing, put together so we can put up 30, 40 points if we need to.
Here's the thing I'll say with Sutton. I think if Drew Lock is the real deal, Sutton's going to be really good. If Drew Lock is a bust, everybody on the team's probably going to suffer.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a good comp. So I'll remind me.
Well, if you think about it last year, Sutton was the only one on the field that was really a receiving threat. Especially the second half of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
So if he's taking on the best corners from every team and still producing, and I've seen Sutton make some great catches, I don't mind him.
And even last year when he was basically the only show in town, like his numbers were very good, but they weren't like elite great.
I know, but I think that's the proof. The proof is even when he's got the one guy or the safety coverage as well, he still produce at a decent rate. I don't mind him. Again, you're talking 4-6. You're still talking wide receiver 2.
So what if Drew Lock is Sam Darnold? Are you pretty psyched then? Like that's a little bit where I think maybe
probably not.
Okay.
I would hope he's better. I would hope he's Jameis Winston.
No, he's not.
No?
He's not going to air it out like Jameis. He's not going to just reckless abandon where he just closes his eyes
but I mean,
and throws it.
To the negative, Jameis, he also had the negative. I think if you take down the touchdowns and the interceptions a little bit, I think you get what you hope Drew Lock is.
So I'll talk about this level. So this is the fourth round. Some guys that go off in the fourth round. Before that, we get Juju Schuster, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore. So those are all guys. Would you rather have them than Cortland Sutton?
I'd probably rather have Juju.
Okay, so the guy that I picked that I do like in this
redraft,
one,
yeah.
and you might disagree with this also, I like Calvin Ridley for this round. I think that he is going to be this year's Godwin. Again, I have him on the Dynasty team, so maybe I just fell in love with my own player.
Yeah.
But I think that the stage is set. That team is going to throw the ball a million times. If Gurley, let's say that Todd Gurley, let's say he gets hurt, that's one thing. But let's say he just comes back and he's not that great. Like I was hearing a stat about he was targeted very few times in the passing game for the Rams, but he was running routes, which makes you think that he either wasn't getting open or that they just didn't have confidence to get him the ball.
I read a thing on Reddit, which I get a lot of information from.
Okay. When are the aliens coming to get us?
Basically, the comment was Calvin Ridley will always be a 2.
What if Julio Jones is gone?
It doesn't matter. It's like Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller will always be a 2. I mean, we hope he's a good 2, but that's just the makeup, the route runner. Like Jerry Jeudy, he's going to be a 2. These guys, the route runners, the little slightly undersized, a little, thin, those are the 2s, which there can be really, there's a place for Calvin Ridley. I'm not saying there's not.
I think the ceiling for Calvin Ridley is Chris Godwin. Like, that's
Absolutely
what I think
not.
the ceiling is.
The ceiling for him is Robert Woods' best year.
Could be this year.
But that's, I mean, it's, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He could end up as a high-end wide receiver too, but he's not going to be a stud. By the way, we got a question from the comment section.
All right.
We got a little Randy Savage in here. Make it Totter. Would you look at Juju as a wide receiver 1 if you stack the first 2 round
The Macho Man
running backs? If you went running back rounds 1 and 2, are you okay with Juju as your first wide receiver off the board? And also Heath.
I think you could take the chance
the Bears
on it.
are going to be okay.
I think that there's definitely a chance that if he becomes what he was 2 years ago, yeah, you're very happy. So let's make the narrative of why that could come back. So Roethlisberger comes back. Roethlisberger, all reports I've seen says he's feeling good. He did an interview today where he looked comfortable. He looks like he's ready to go. Juju was a top, producing wide receiver. Had really big games that could win you weeks when Roethlisberger was there. They've got Washington still there, and also Deontay Johnson. 2 guys that are coming on. But again, I think that if anything, they help to kind of get him a little bit softer coverage because they got to account for these other guys.
Right.
I think McFarland was the receiver that they drafted this year. He's kind of a bigger bodied guy that can maybe take some of that underneath work.
Right.
So again, I like Juju. I think that it's not outside the realm of possibilities. I am, however, nervous because if you take him in the 4th or at the start of the 4th round or even in the 3rd round, and he does bust, then you're in trouble. I think that there are safer options in this kind of realm.
I think this. I know I said this in one of our other shows. I think this is the last year you can use Juju Smith-Schuster. I do. I think they're going to have synergy with Roethlisberger. I think Roethlisberger is just going to sling it. I don't think it's going to be a phenomenal year for the Steelers at all, but I like Juju at least high to mid wide receiver too. Which if you go running back, and that's what you get out of your first wide receiver off the board, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so I'll make an argument for and against Juju. Another one, they've got a really solid defense that really looked good at the end of last year. Maybe they try to win with their defense, so maybe they aren't slinging it as much. However, they're in a division with the Browns, the Ravens, teams there's good teams in that division that are going to probably put up points where you need to score points. So I think that, again, if you're trying to take a chance, there's a guy that goes off at the 4-4 is DJ Moore, and I've heard some analysts who really think he's going to get a ton of volume, but they are kind of, I think, sleeping on Robbie Anderson. I'm a big Calvin Ridley fan. Keenan Allen is also in here, and when I was going through, I thought about putting Keenan Allen as a guy to avoid just because he's got new quarterback coming in. You don't know what it's going to look like.
He's a guy to avoid just bringing up.
And I checked his stats.
Nobody knows.
And he finished as the wide receiver number 8 last year, which surprised me. I thought he was going to be lower than that. He finished above Amari Cooper. He finished above Allen Robinson. He finished above Mike Evans.
He just didn't blow up last year.
He didn't know. And again, I feel like the past couple of years, there's been weeks where people are like, I don't know, should I get rid of Keenan Allen? He's disappointed. But then I try to trade for him, and people don't because that he's got that potential too. He's got that talent where he can show up and all of a sudden put up some good points.
All right. Not to take away from this, we got another question from the chat. How do you prepare for mid-season COVID issues? You mentioned extra roster spot. Should we focus on teams in smaller cities, or do we not overthink it? So he's thinking smaller cities, less outbreak risk. Potential.
I don't think that's something that I would think of because those guys, they travel around. They go to other cities. They've got to be going in and out of different places, different buildings.
Right, the travel.
And again, they're because they move around so much, I think, you're not always sitting in your, small city. You're not just always in Cleveland where no one wants to go. Sorry if there's any Cleveland fans out there.
But I don't think the 3 people here are Cleveland
fans. But again, I think extra roster spots is big. We talked about in one of our episodes whether we wanted to add another quarterback spot, and I think that you were right when you said you don't necessarily want all those guys to be off the waivers and just every team to have them.
There's a need for week to week, streamers.
Yeah, and again with the quarterback, there's enough quarterbacks. If you play in a 12-team league, it's not dynasty. You're going to be able to find a usable guy off the waivers.
I don't know. The bottom 8 are pretty rough.
Even some of those guys, the guys that you don't want, they could in the right position have big games. Yeah. Trubisky's put up some big games before, but I don't want him as my every week quarterback. But
he said it also must be tough being a Bears fan. Can't root for your own team. You got to hope the Packers have a down year. So
it is rough being a Chicago fan in general.
But he you can't tell me that you thought the Packers were going to have a good season last year. Can you honestly tell me that at the beginning of last year you thought the Packers were going to have a good year?
No,
and I thought they were going to be so
I would
bad.
have bet on them to finish last in the division.
Anytime you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a certain level of success, but I saw 6 wins.
I think one of the stats I saw was that they had the most games won by 1 or less scores. So again, if a couple things go different for them, their season, their win total is completely different. But you got to give it to the Packers. I wasn't a fan of LaFleur coming in, but if he came in and he won, good for him. But you can't, again, as a Packer fan, I think you can't be happy about that draft.
Yeah.
You picked up Funchess to be kind of your wide receiver to maybe add some depth. He opts out. It's just, is Alan Lazard going to be the guy that leads you to the division championship?
You better hope not.
It's just going to be Devontae with just 6 guys circling him.
You didn't see the 3-3 team, but anything's possible with AA Ron.
AA Ron, hey,
wait, I think we got that for you.
Oh,
I think we actually have that for you.
You done messed up, AA Ron.
Yep, and here's another.
Cram it up your cram hole, LaFleur.
There you go. There you go. You got the double up.
So hopefully the futility that we wish would be the Packers season last year will be this season.
Right.
And again, with such apparent lack of depth, they could be a team that could really get hurt by the COVID coming in. If you lose Devontae Adams,
Double up.
So
That's
hopefully the futility that we wish would be the Packers
what'd you
season
do
last
there?
year will be this season.
Right, right.
And again, with such apparent lack of depth,
I know
they
what's
could be a
going
team
on.
that could really.
There we go.
All right, so
We
you
got
got to
there.
hear it again.
You got to hear it
You're
again.
welcome. All right, moving on. Where were we? So we're jumping into the 5th round. My guy that I'm ready to get hurt by again.
Nightbot just, I guess, just told Heath to calm it down. Too many messages, I guess.
All right.
The Bears.
So speaking of Dub Bears, a guy that I was looking at in the 5th round that I think I'm going to target in this one. I've seen him fall in some of the mocks I do with actual people. Is at the 5'8", David Montgomery. I'm ready to get hurt again. I reached for him last year in one of my less competitive leagues, and I had him and James Conner, who both just really hampered my team and was the reason I just missed the playoffs, where I probably could have taken it home. But
Yeah.
David Montgomery, the case for him, volume. He's going to get a lot of volume. Hopefully the Bears can put it together a little bit this year. Let's say Mitch doesn't do well. I think Foles is going to come in, and they're going to be able to just run the offense better. Mitch, I think, is a more physically talented guy. He's got more of just that raw skill, but I think that Foles, he's just shown poise under pressure. He was a Super Bowl MVP. Is that correct? Double check me on that.
Foles? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Foles, when Foles is in the lineup, you're not like super stoked that he's in the lineup, right? I'm not like, oh, thank goodness
last
Foles
year
is
for
here.
Jacksonville, when you watched him, you didn't feel good for them.
You weren't pumped,
you know,
right?
You didn't.
You
think
wanted to see
that
the stash.
It was coming together. You thought that they definitely overpaid him.
I feel the same about. Oh, I gotta try to. How do I don't know. Heath got banned somehow, and I gotta get him back in here.
Was it for being a Packers fan?
10-minute timeout.
Oh no!
What? How do we get back in here? Randy, talk me through this. They timed me out because I used. Oh, how many times did you use the laughing emoji? Maybe I gotta turn down the Nightbot.
Is
settings.
he just trolling with emojis right now?
No, so I added
chat
I added a bot. I added Nightbot in here to keep control of the chat. You know, 'cause
Okay.
it gets wild up in here, and and sure enough, it just started banning people. Actually, Randy's got another question. Speaking of Aaron, what late QBs are you looking at? Like 11th round and later, like super late.
All right, let me jump down
You
to
got-
the
you
11th
got that
round
handy?
on here. So going in the 11th round, at the 11-7, we have
You done messed up, Aaron.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron.
And right next to him, we have Joe Burrow, the Tiger King. So,
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
again, I'm kind of like Joe Burrow. I've heard some different analysts who are kind of high on him. They think that they're, again, if you
You're
believe,
pulling the Joe
if you
Burrow
believe-
card late here?
If you believe you're in
pulling
AJ
the
Green,
Joe-
as you do,
the
maybe,
Joe
maybe
Burrow.
you make the case for Joe
Well,
Burrow.
again, Joe Burrow's going to have.
If AJ Green's going to be the wide receiver 1, who's going to throw it to him?
Joe Burrow's going to throw for 2,500 yards, and AJ Green's going to catch like 1,500 of them.
How many does CJ Uzama get?
Who is that?
6 touchdowns.
Who is that?
It's happening.
Heath, do you know who CJ Uzama is? Or Randy, do either of you know who CJ Uzama is?
That's a deep sleeper.
Okay, Randy will know. I bet Heath probably doesn't even know the Bengals still have a team.
They're coming back. This
Really, Joe Burrow is the guy you're giving out.
So I'm just saying that's
Okay.
the guy that was going in the 11th round. After him, we
I don't
got
even like him in the 11th
Tom
round.
Brady, who, if you believe,
Give me the Tom Brady stonks. You know,
All right.
if we're talking this late.
after that, Matt Stafford, who again was airing it out, had really good numbers before
Again.
he got hurt.
Give me that.
Here's one,
with that super deep.
Baker
yeah.
Mayfield. So those are the guys that are going in that type of round. Ben Roethlisberger, like if he comes back and he's old Ben and they're throwing it, you know, he could give you some points.
I've liked all those names much better than Joe Burrow so far.
Okay, so not a Burrow believer.
Well, I don't think. Here's the thing: even in the 11th round, you can get quality people. Why blow it on Joe Burrow when Matt Stafford's there? Why is Joe Burrow going to
He
be a top
had
12?
historically great record-breaking college career. He's
Right.
the new hotness, the
Okay.
first pick in the NFL draft. He's got Higgins, who a wide receiver rookie that people are high on. They got AJ Green, who you think is going to be good.
AJ Green's just a stud for it.
Tyler Boyd, it's just CJ Uzama, an embarrassment of riches.
But why would you take him this year and not just wait a year?
Because you're looking for a late round quarterback.
Yeah, but okay, so you drafted this team, right? You've put all this time into drafting your team. You're like, okay, I'm going to go late quarterback. And you're picking Joe Burrow in the 11th?
You just got a chance. There's an upside chance. You don't know what you get. If he underperforms the first 2 weeks, you go to the waiver wire and you find Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins.
The upside is he's good enough you don't have to drop him. No? I don't know. I don't see him as a top 12 option. I'd look elsewhere.
I don't even know if Goff was chosen in this draft. So
I don't like Goff either. I like those.
Believe in the coach.
I like the other options you listed. I don't mind rolling into the season with Stafford as my quarterback.
Yep.
It's not the worst. Tom Brady, I don't mind rolling in with him as my quarterback.
When Mitch Trubisky gets out there and just
Big Mama's handing out biscuits, baby.
becomes everything
for the
we hope
2
he could
games
be.
he ends up playing.
So again, I think there are actually a lot of quarterbacks that are not even getting drafted that are interesting. Sam Darnold. Again, I don't think the Jets are going to be good this year though. Teddy Bridgewater's a guy. I'm curious to see how they look for the first couple games.
All right, here's our comment section. I made it a little bigger for you.
All right, here we go. Yep, Tyler Eifert left. There you go. Paint the picture. Tell me about CJ Uzama.
Tyler Eifert's not a thing. Yeah, see, Randy's on the Stafford train. We know.
So they know his name.
We're going Stafford. Yeah, he knew his name but didn't know who he was.
Big Ben Love. I picked him up off the waivers in Dynasty when he was injured last year. I feel good about it as a backup to
I like
Petty
Big Ben.
Mahomes.
Mitchell, yeah. I don't like yeah. How do you feel about Allen Robinson despite the quarterback woes?
No. Allen Robinson, the case for him is that even with Mitch being bad and
he's still not terrible.
The offense struggling, is he still had a good year with like the worst case scenario. So let's say Mitch or Foles comes out and they're better than the futility that was last year. If Nagy kind of figures some things out, he seems like a smart guy. Maybe got a little bit stuck in his ways, but again, a lot of things could change for him. It's unfortunate that there was no preseason. Again, nobody's fault. Maybe China, but like just to not have that and see that would have been fun for Bears fans.
Right. But I think to kind of Randy's point here earlier, if you go, running back, or if you go take that risk and go running back, quarterback, if you're looking at Juju Smith-Schuster, Robert Woods, Allen Robinson as your like running or wide receiver options, I like all those options to pair with your stud wide receivers or stud quarterback and running back. I like that.
All right, so now we're still in the 5th round. We'll bring it back. In the 5th round, the player in this round of the draft that I am avoiding, we're gonna talk about this one. I chose AJ Green. I am avoiding AJ Green.
As an avoid?
An avoid.
I think you have him in the wrong list. Want.
Why are you the way that you are?
Oh,
so you pick AJ Green in the 5th round?
In the 5th round?
Yeah.
You
went in this one at the 5-7. Do you pick AJ Green at the 5-7?
Okay. What are the chances he's a top 12 wide receiver?
Need an answer.
What are the top?
Do you take him in the 5th?
Yes.
You blew it!
A terrible decision.
No.
Really.
Okay. Who's going around there? Give me
pull it back.
Give me
up.
some names.
I was in the drops. I was playing with the drops.
Sorry to
if
yell.
we jump back, no, that's all right. It's time to yell. We have the AJ Green fight. So a guy that's comparable that went right next to AJ Green at the 5-6. So right before him was T.Y. Hilton.
Interesting.
I'm out on T.Y. this year.
So I made that trade last year in Dynasty.
Yep. Before that, we got Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf. I like DK Metcalf this year. DJ Shark, who I would also take over those guys. Tyler Lockett, I'd take over them. The next wide receiver off the board, there's a little bit of a running back run. And then the next one that goes is Marquise Brown. A little risky.
Oof.
And then another big gap before another wide receiver, and they get Stephon Diggs and Devontae Parker. So
there's still some good names out there. I think there's only a few. Okay. AJ Green, if he came out and was a top 12 wide receiver, you're going to be like, of course. You don't think so?
if AJ Green plays more than 6 games this year, I'd be surprised.
What would be more shocking? Joe Burrow being a top 10 quarterback or AJ Green being a top 12 wide receiver?
Well,
let's do top 12
because
for both.
they're connected. I think that for Joe Burrow to really have a good year, he needs AJ Green to be good this year. I don't see that happening, but yeah, I just see AJ Green on the board, and I'm running the other way. I don't want the
just
feet
because of the
problem.
injuries.
I am largely like 80% because of the injuries. Also because he hasn't played in a long time. He's older. What was he, 30? Between 32 and 34?
No.
I think he's over 32.
He may be.
I could find it out.
I think he was 31 last year.
Right,
He
you
may
tell
have turned
people why
32.
you love AJ Green, and I'll look up how old he is.
Again, every year that he's played at least 12 games, he's been a wide receiver 1. I'm not going to let the last 18 months change my mind on
I'm not
the
going
player
to
he
let
is.
a year and a half of missing time.
Granted, a year and a half, but we're still drafting Darius Geis.
Maybe. AJ Green is 32.
I agree. So Heath comes in here and makes
I
a good
agree.
point too. If you hit on AJ in the 5th and you're way ahead, if you don't hit on him, then it doesn't wreck your season. AJ has something to prove he wants to play. So I did a analysis, a very broad, general, not accurate analysis. I related to at the end of the season, how many of your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks were still on your team at the end of the year. What do you think the odds of you having your 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th round player on your team still?
Well, if you took AJ Green and you held him on your bench the
I'm
whole
saying-
year while you waited
I'm
for
saying-
him to come
I'm
back. Like,
I'm saying the past 5 years of you playing fantasy football.
oh, I don't even know. I haven't even been playing that long. Like,
That's what I'm saying. Though, since playing,
let me read you some running backs that go
Right.
at the same time.
I'll-
David
I'll
Montgomery,
give you-
Raheem Mostert, Devin Singletary, Jonathan Taylor. I take all those guys above AJ Green just easily.
maybe JT, but I don't know if I like the other ones.
Also, Darren Waller, and then interesting. So, a guy,
Nice.
a mid-round quarterback. I never go mid-round quarterback. I always go, you know,
Right.
the highest tier or lower. But Kyler Murray
You get
in
that-
the 5th is interesting.
Kyler Murray in the 5th is exactly how you screw up your season.
Okay, make the talk me out.
I
of him.
think to Heath's point here in the 5th round, you can't screw it up, and if you hit on your way ahead, Kyler Murray is the even more exaggerated example of that. If he hits, he could be a top 3-4 quarterback. He could be super good. But if he doesn't, you missed out on
AJ Green.
You missed out on a really good flex or a pretty decent starter for nothing.
Yeah, again, I like that Hopkins is there. I like that he runs. I like that. Just again, the depth is there. He's got Larry Fitzgerald. He's got great hands. He's an older guy. He's probably not going to be.
I don't hate it,
But he's a guy that helps the quarterback, I think.
But again, I think my approach to fantasy is when I'm going through the draft, I want to pick guys that have history, that don't have question marks, that haven't changed locations a lot, don't have to learn a new playbook. Like, that's the situation I want to buy into.
Kyler's second year. Again,
Kyler's a year in with a brand new offensive
and
line.
they never scored
a new
touchdowns.
running back.
They were awful in the red zone, and I think that if they can just start scoring some touchdowns, Kyler's year could look a lot better.
I'm more risk averse in that scenario.
Yeah. All right, should we move it on to the
Randy
next
says
one?
he thinks if Kyler hits, then Christian Kirk probably hits as well.
It's an interesting take. I was listening to a podcast today where they were talking about Christian Kirk. I think he had a high ankle sprain, and I think he actually tweeted out. Someone was saying like, "Well, if Saquon, had a high ankle sprain in Kamara, and you're making it as an excuse for them, why
Right.
are you saying that Christian Kirk should, is underperforming?" I think he retweeted like, "Say it louder for the people in the back." So again, I think that ankle was bothering him. He's a talented guy. He's a young guy. If you got dynasty team, he might be a guy that you could glance at picking up before Larry probably retires next year. Again, I've seen some interviews with him. He seems like a well-spoken, intelligent guy.
Yeah.
And again, I like that team. If knowing that Larry Fitzgerald was there to kind of help probably coach up, he seems like the type of guy that would help those guys. And
Again, I feel like the Cardinals is the team. It's almost like America's team right now. You want to buy in, you want them to be good, and
again, the stage is set. And I think the difference between them and the Denver Broncos is I think that they want to be a high-powered offense. They want to run a gun. They want to run a million plays on offense. Whereas Denver, I think they want to have the defense and go that way, pound it, and if they need to, then use this offensive.
just think about the teams. I just see the Cardinals, rough defense, quarterback change. They just drafted him. Coach change last year. Struggling a little bit on offense. The run game was. It's the Bears. Doesn't it sound a lot like the Bears?
They have a quarterback who's good.
But is he good?
I think he's good.
Okay.
Was he the rookie of the year last year?
Yeah, and they got DeAndre Hopkins too, which is a nice.
We
plus.
got Mitch Trubisky.
But again, they got a high end wide receiver. Same kind of comp. We got Allen Robinson at the same time. The pieces are together. It's kind of put up or shut up. We'll see. I think I'm still holding off the Cardinals for another year.
I'm going to get some pieces. I don't know where. I don't know how, but I'm getting somebody.
I like winning. All right, next.
I like winning. All right, let's continue on. We're going to jump to the 6th round.
I agree, Heath.
The guy that I want is a guy that's on Nick's Dynasty team, and I know that when he changed teams, Nick was a little upset about it, but I think Stephon Diggs, there's a world in which he just is the wide receiver 1 for that team.
Right.
They like to throw the long ball, and again, if he can catch it, he's a talented guy. Maybe a little bit of question about his attitude.
Right.
If he wasn't real psyched when he didn't get the ball through to him, was a little bit of a diva. But if they want to throw it to him,
that's what you want in a wide receiver. They want the ball. Give him the ball. I don't want this Thielen guy in my way. Get out of the way. Give me the ball.
Thielen was out of the way a lot of the time, and again,
the ball.
Diggs had some good weeks. I think I was watching the top 100 players, and they actually had Stephon Diggs higher than OBJ. You'd have to look and double check that.
I've seen some crazy OBJ trades going on lately.
Yeah,
I've seen more so in Dynasty, but I've seen OBJ and 2 first-round picks going just for CEH in Dynasty, which is pretty hot. People are down on OBJ, including me.
Yeah, I did hear a narrative that it sounds like I was watching the Footballers, and they were saying that they think that his injury that he sustained was in training camp, and that it was lingering throughout the whole year. And now he's healthy. That can make a big difference.
Again, I feel like for the Browns,
I think the coaching change makes a huge difference.
Give me Chubb, give me Hunt, maybe a little Baker action. I think I'm out of otherwise on the Browns.
All right.
I don't want any of the wide receivers.
Make it Totter. Thanks for checking in with us. Happy to have the comments. We got another comment. Cardinal division is tough this year. Not going to be in on them. So, again, I think there's a wide range for...
You got to take that with
a
grain of salt. But I did say I agreed with him.
Gotcha. All right. So, then the guy to avoid in that one, this is the 6-7 pick was...
Do you not like my team?
No, I like your team. I've chosen a number of those guys. Robert Woods is a guy that I picked up that I chose as a guy I like. Stephon Diggs is a guy that I picked that I like. And in the 9th, Devin Coleman. Okay. So I've got some guys on your team that I do like.
Okay, we'll get
especially where they're going.
But this one,
all right,
specifically.
So this one, 6-7, is Deshaun Watson. And how do you feel having Deshaun Watson as your quarterback in Dynasty? I know you were shopping him a little bit.
Yeah, well, part of this is I'm trying to, play the antagonist role for you, but I actually am a little scared of Deshaun Watson.
They traded away the guy that all he did was throw it to him and he caught it.
I had this stack. Deshaun Watson.
It's such a good stack.
DeAndre Hopkins. One throws it, one catches it. They score at the same time.
You get both the points.
It's a beautiful thing. Now it's ruined.
And for no,
and despite what I said about and to his point here, maybe wait 1 or 2 years, I was just going to buy in now.
No, God, please, no! No!
Just keep talking.
No!
That is
actually worked out perfect.
Yeah, when they traded away Hopkins, and then when Diggs ends
Oh
up at
God,
the Bills.
this has to be a mistake.
Rough free agency.
But I have an offer out in the
world
interwebs.
Okay.
Straight up Kyler Murray for Deshaun Watson at Dynasty.
Oh yeah,
it's out there. It's in the world.
I think that could really work out for you if you get the Kyler Murray side. I think.
Yeah. But to your point, I don't like Deshaun Watson not because it's because I think he's going to struggle. I just don't like Deshaun Watson in the 7th round. I still would rather punt till later.
Yeah, and again, I think watching games that he played last year, their line wasn't good. They were just on him all the time, and he was just making the most athletic moves and shaking guys and then throwing the ball down the field, and then Hopkins would be open, and he'd get it. Now that he's gone, you bring in Brandon Cooks, who I actually do like Brandon Cooks' value. Maybe we'll talk about him in the 7th round, which is coming up, but I think that, again, there's a world in which Will Fuller gets hurt right away, which is the world every year, and then
every
Brandon
week.
Cooks gets a concussion. And, again, I'm not hoping it for these guys, but, again, they're guys that have that injury risk that are higher than your typical player.
Yeah.
And then who are you're throwing it to? You're throwing it to my guy, Kenny Stills. That's mainly why I'm holding him is for those 2 wide receivers to get hurt right away. Brandon Cooks, I like him as a player. He was a guy that I traded away. I was worried about the concussions. He had just gotten moved to the Texans, so I thought his value was going to be about the peak hype, the most I was going to be able to get for him. But he puts up 1,000-yard seasons. He does it when he comes straight from one team to the other, which, again, usually you get the narrative that if you go to a new team, it's more difficult to get that traction to kind of have that good year right away. But he does it. I've watched games when he was playing with the Rams where he, and again, maybe it's subjective, but I think there's just guys that you watch and it looks like they're trying the whole time. They look like they're still out there, even if they're losing, like they're giving it their all. He doesn't look like he takes plays off. So I like him as a player to watch. He's got good speed. He's got good hands. I think he's going to be a good player. But again, if he gets hit in the head and he's concussed, how long before I'm
going to take a little side, note here as well. And I think probably Heath would agree with me on this. I'm almost looking further into the season too when I'm drafting, and some names sell better than others. Especially when we get into this round of things. The top 10 guys are gonna sell regardless. They're gonna be tradable assets. When we get down here, if you're trying to decide between 2 similar productions, I'm going with the name. So Brandon Cooks, he's only fallen this far because of injury. If he has a couple good games in a row, you can sell him for so much more than you paid for him.
Yeah.
But to the opposite, if he gets hurt, even if it's a mild injury right at the get-go, you can't sell him for anything. So that's where I'm almost scared, even though we're talking actual production, not trade value. These are the kind of types of players that I'm taking extra caution with, because if he does get an early injury or doesn't start out hot, I don't know if you're going to be able to flip him.
Yeah, he's saying that, possibly losing DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to spread the ball around, might help the team. I would sell that. Again, I think I
appreciate that.
I've heard that argument. But
I appreciate that hug, but
I
don't know if it's going to be okay.
A top wide receiver off of your team who was, play-wise, very productive for them. He was a wide receiver 1, I'd have to look at where he finished every year, but he was in the top 5 consistently when he was, playing with Deshaun. And it's hard to get better when your best guy who was doing great goes away.
Yeah. Why couldn't you just trade for offensive line?
That would have been maybe. There seems like they could have used things other than a slightly washed running back who some people are in on. I'm out on David Johnson this year.
Running back's hard to replace. There's there's a bunch of them. You could have gotten Freeman for
now they've got David Johnson and Duke Johnson. So Houston loves D. Johnson. They want D. Johnson in and around.
So it's a Johnson
team.
And Johnson kind of thing.
They just love guys.
Is this sponsored now?
Can't get enough of D. Johnson.
Can't get enough.
All right, continuing. Moving on from that. So the guy that we're going into the next round, the 7th round at the 7-8, is Brandon Cooks, who we just talked about. So we won't spend too much time. I like his ceiling. I think if he can go there, if he can become the number 1 wide receiver on that team, especially if Will Fuller gets hurt, he's going to get a lot of volume. He's a talented guy, and Deshaun is a talented quarterback. So we'll jump off of Brandon Cooks. Again, worry about his concussions possibly. But you never know. Next, the avoid in the 7-6. I've got Deebo Samuel. Deebo had a great year. He was a rookie. I'm worried about the foot injury. He just injured his foot. It sounds like he's going to miss some games. And it is, what I've heard about the injury is that it's a tough one to come back from, and you still sometimes see it kind of linger.
Maybe I'm just getting cynical in my my fantasy football years, but besides Kittle, I'm almost out on the 49ers altogether. It's not that there's not going to be good pieces there. I just don't want to have to guess. It's like the Eagles running back situation from 2 years ago. I don't want to have to mess with it. I'm just punting, and not really punting, but I'm punting from their team and just picking other players that are more sure bets, have more history, where I don't have to play week to week who's going to be the guy. Because guess what? I'm a Barnes, and I choose wrong every time. It's just in my DNA.
Where they finished in pass attempts. So let's see.
As far as who?
As far as just last year, total pass attempts.
With Jimmy G?
Yeah.
Garoppolo, it doesn't matter. He could have thrown it a billion times, but he only throws it about 4 yards in the air. And I think his average completion was almost as bad as Trubisky's was.
Yeah, again, they didn't pass as much as you would think for an offense that scored as many
They
points.
just have a really good offensive scheme, and they have George Kittle. No? And a plethora of running backs that each game a different one tends to go off.
Again, they brought in Brandon Ayuk, who's going to get a chance because Debo's hurt. He kind of does the same thing that Debo does, so I think that could hurt Debo a little bit, just having another guy that can do the same thing.
Right.
Debo's a stud. He's a giant, just muscular guy who just runs people over. He's a yard after the catch kind of guy, which is the guys that they like on that team because Garoppolo throws just a little dink, and they give it to the giant Hulk who just crushes people and runs into the end zone. But
yeah,
I'm worried about the foot, and I'm going to avoid him because of the injury largely.
Yeah, he's definitely on my do not draft list. But again, I think some of these teams are going more towards what's real life football good versus us what's actually fantasy good. I think Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel, and I think these guys will be good football players and help the team win, but it's not going to help my team win.
I would agree.
All right, let's go to the next round and kind of stop there. What do you got in the eighth?
The 8-5, I like Matt Breida. I think that him and Jordan Howard both have opportunity. Yeah. The line in Miami is bad, but if you're going to get a starting running back for a team in the 8th round, especially if maybe you loaded up on some other positions earlier.
Right. Again, if you went wide receiver, quarterback, wide receiver, wide receiver, tight end, and you're struggling for your running backs, I think Breida's a good option.
Yeah, and so if you're going in that round, there's like Ronald Jones, James White. If you're in a PPR, I like James White. Ronald Jones, I'm hoping for the breakout, but there's a lot of worlds in which it doesn't happen. Sony Michel, did he have a foot surgery? But I think he's supposed to be coming back, but I'm concerned about him. He didn't have a good year last year. Doesn't catch the ball as much because he got James White catching the ball all day. Yeah. So Matt Breida in that tier of running backs, I like him more than those guys because I would agree. Again, that could be a guy that doesn't pan out, but
all right,
if you're taking him in the 8th, then I like it. So then the guy in that range in the 8th round that I would avoid, I just think that Mecole Hardman, I was surprised to see him going in the 8th. It was really? I thought that was a reach. He is on a high-powered offense with Kansas City, but you got Tyreek Hill, who's going to be the most targeted wide receiver, and then you still got Sammy Watkins there, he's just chronically underperforms, but will put up one big game here and there.
His 30-point performance week 1 last year and
he kind of showed up in the playoffs too, and he's just an interesting player. He was high draft capital, who just hasn't quite panned out ever, but he's still got talent, and he can still get the ball thrown to him.
That's how you blow your fab at the beginning.
They're going to throw it to Travis Kelce a lot. He gets good. Yeah. He gets the touchdowns. They brought in, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who everybody is just through the roof hype train on.
There's plenty of production, not enough to Mecole.
Yeah, I think that Mecole's a guy where maybe he gives you one long bomb touchdown a game, which is great if you want that. But in the 8th round, I'm looking for something more.
On the 16-game season, he'll have like 4 or 5 wide receiver 2 or better weeks, but you can't predict him.
Yeah.
Especially with that team, it's not going to be like, oh, they're playing a bad offense, he's going to get touched.
Because they always air it out. It's just a crapshoot.
Or every defense is bad to them. I mean, they're going to score on everybody. And
just to note, Christian Kirk's going right next to him. So if we are a Christian Kirk believer, that's a guy who could be the second wide receiver on the Cardinals, who could be high.
I'm not ready to tie my name to Christian Kirk.
Other guys are going around there. John Brown, I'm out on him. Darius Slayton for New York. Some people are high on Darius. I don't know that New York's going to be good at offense this year.
I think we're into the area where you're almost taking stabs. So here's the area where you have 2 options. You can pick a player who you know is going to be bad, maybe not bad, but subpar, or an option where this guy could be completely useless or he could be good. Like Breida is that option. Breida, he could be nothing, or he could be a top RB2.
Christian Kirk equals Lazard. I think it's an interesting comp.
Oof.
I think that the Cardinals are going to throw it.
I don't know.
More than Green Bay. How is Green Bay going to run the rock? They're going to be interesting to watch.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Heath, Aaron Jones or Dylan? Who you got for most touchdowns? All right, we'll talk about the answers.
Just touchdowns, not fantasy points?
Just touchdowns. Let's do touchdowns.
I'm curious to see the answer. But
Because really, the touchdown is dependent on if I'm interested in Aaron Jones or not.
All right, so that completes the 8th round. So let's see if we can get an answer, and then we'll talk about that, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and do the last 8 rounds. But, yeah, if I'm going to take Aaron Jones with having more touchdowns, so I'll throw that out there. I think that he's going to have less touchdowns than last year. But
I think if it's even close, Aaron Jones drops from being the 5th or 6th or 7th best running back to 13th, 14th, 15th.
You never know.
Oh, he missed it. Who's going to have more touchdowns, A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones? Give me the news or the deets. How many did Aaron Jones have last year?
Like 16, I thought.
Combined or
combined total touchdowns? I think that he tied with Tennessee Titans. Henry. I think he tied with Henry for the most touchdowns by a running back.
And how many did LeGarrette Blount have the one year? Like 18 with the Patriots?
I do not know that.
I think he had 18 with the Patriots. I agree. He said
Aaron Jones won't repeat, but did not commit to A.J. Dillon having more touchdowns.
Right, but if
gotta go Jones. There you go.
Let's say Jones had 16. If he gets 10,
That is correct.
Okay.
If he's got 10 touchdowns this year,
10 is not impossible. But
right.
I think that team, man.
But his touches aren't going to go.
Are they going to be able to move the ball with no wide receivers?
Yeah, I just don't think the touches are going to go up for Aaron Jones. I feel like he's going to have at least a 4 to 6 touchdown regression. I don't know. I'm scared. I sold him.
Well, we'll see. They could be geniuses, and Lazard is just the next big thing.
Got Jones? What?
But I have not heard a lot of hype for Lazard.
Is there Lazard hype?
Not that I've heard of, but again, a lot of times Aaron Rodgers is second receiver.
Is he throwing the ball this year? Have they made a quarterback decision?
You done messed up, Aaron.
We got to see who's their starter. I think that's the better controversy than the Foles Trubisky.
Get Lazard on that all cheese diet and just let him loose.
Just integrate him.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to, again, split the episode. So this will be the first half of the 16-round draft. Who you like, who you not like.